And welcome to this week's Pigskin Picks on Delaware Live, powered by 302 Sports. Benny Mitchell and Trey Mitchell, as usual, with us tonight. Glenn Frazier. Glenn had a tough second place finish last year. But Edge, we had to go to the point system. You had an 8.75 winning percentage, but Marty Sheehan had the 7-game week. He had an 8.75.14. So
good for Marty. I'm sure he had easier games than I did.
He had the crazy week where we had the forfeit, and so a chance for you to come back, and we'll have Marty a little bit later in the season, but a chance for you to redeem yourself with only, I think, one loss last year. You had one wrong pick last year, and give you a chance tonight to redeem yourself. So let's get started. Some of these game times are going to change, folks. I'm looking on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm seeing already games being moved up, worried about this coming storm. So let's get started with Upstate, Conrad versus Brandy, scheduled for a 6 o'clock start on Friday night. Trey Mitchell, what do you got?
Well, looks like it'd be a game of quarterbacks here. Conrad's Gabe Welsh. He's thrown for over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Brandywine's Anthony Drummond. He's thrown for 3. He's thrown 3 touchdown passes in week 1. Brandywine hung with Laurel in the first half, and Conrad saw Sussex Tech turn a big first half to a 44-13 win last week. I'm going to go Brandywine at home.
Frazier, welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back. Glad to be joining you guys. A lot of close games, I think, on the picks this week, and this is one of them right here. Trey already mentioned Coleman, or he did mention Coleman. Coleman's a good running back, I think, for Conrad. He might be the difference in the game. He gained over 100 yards in that loss to the Ravens. And Welsh, he threw for almost 180 yards in that game. He completed 15 of 20 passes. So even though they got soundly thumped on the scoreboard, they got some playmakers. And I actually like Conrad to pull a mild upset on the road.
Right, Trey talked about those 3 touchdown passes for Brandywine. That was against Laurel. So Conrad, you're right. They have a little bit of everything. A little bit of running game, a little bit of passing game. It's going to be on the road, albeit not too far. I'm going to go with the Bulldogs. They played Laurel tough for the first half. Let's see if they can do it again. I'm going to pick Brandywine to win in our first pick of the night. You talked about tough games to pick, and here's one of them. I think this game's already been moved to either 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock Friday night. It's a big district. There goes my camera again. A big district game in Class A. It's Polytech traveling down to Dagsburg to play Indian River. Both teams 2-0. Trey Mitchell, what do you got?
Well, you hit the nail on the head there. Both teams are 2-0. Big district game. A win is big. Whoever gets the winner, it's big for them, right? After 3 losses and 2 years to St. E's, IR got by the Vikings last week. Polytech is off to a 2-0 start, scoring 30 points in both games. And they beat Wilmington Charter last week. I like Indian River getting by St. E's last week. I'm happy to see Polytech's doing well as well. But I like Indian River at home.
Glenn?
I'm going to agree with Trey on this one. I like the Indians at home. They've got 3 decent running backs in Chandler, Handy, and Stokes. And Grace, the quarterback, he does a pretty good job of handling an offense. They're not fancy, but I think they can get the job done. I like Indian River in this one.
And going to be down in Dagsburg long. And now it's going to be a get out of school early trip for Polytech down there, kind of like a JV game type scenario playing after school. Indian River has 3 Henloop and Hammer wrestlers on it. Handy, Knight, and Chandler. So I got to go with the Indians at home and the power of the hammer. So I'm going to go Indian River. Let's move to Friday night or Friday, 4 o'clock. This is a 1-0 Early College, an 0-2 St. Andrews. Zach Horsemeyer has got the Hornets rolling right now. Big game. This is another Class A game. Trey Mitchell, who you got in this?
Well, St. Andrews is a playoff team the past 2 seasons, and they start off 0-2. And two lopsided losses, and Early College took a big step in program history getting that first win. Like you said, it's a short trip. It's an early start. I think Early College will keep riding that wave of that first win, and they're going to find a way.
Glenn?
3rd tough pick in a row, Benny. You're just throwing them out there.
It's a good week, man. Week 3 is awesome.
I'm going to go with the home team on this one. I think St. Andrews will get a W for Coach Moffitt. And early college, maybe a rough trip up there to Middletown. So I'm going to go with the St. Andrews Saints.
I'm going to fly with the Swarm. I'm going to go Hornets from ECHS for their second win in program history. Big game on tap. If this one has been moved to 6 o'clock Friday night kickoff, it's number 1 versus number 2. Caravel travels down to Laurel. Trey, who you got?
Well, yeah, like you said, it's our first 1 versus 2 of the season. That running back duo over Caravel, Craig and Jordan Miller, who are not related. They're looking for that state title that eluded them last year, and Laurel's they're gonna answer that with Pat Bell and Xavier Limehouse. And they're Laurel's looking to prove they belong in Double A. I like Laurel at home, man. That's a tough place to play. I like Laurel at home.
Glenn.
Benny, we've had Caravel number 1 in our Super 7 for the season so far. I think Caravel maybe is a little bit too strong overall for Laurel. It's going to be a tough road trip for them. Caravel did a lot of road games last year going down south, but the difference could be the kicker. And Logan Keld for Caravel, 8 for 8 on point after attempts last week. He's one of the better kickers in 2A. I'm going to go with Caravel in a close one. Tough place to play down there in the dog pound.
We saw it last week with Caesar Rodney and again, the number 1, number 2 we talked about. Yes, we've had Caravel. All 7 broadcasters have had them number 1 all year long. Laurel's moved up from 5, 4, 2. I think Laurel's letting people know they belong in Double A. They may have belonged in Double A last year. They are Tate Wall's out for the season with a knee injury. Royce Scott did not play last week. He was a game time decision. I'm sure he's going to be a game time decision again this week. Fortunately for both teams, it's not a district game. It's a Double A game, but it's not Caravel moving out of District 3. Caravel's going to have to score when they get the ball because Laurel's not going to give them many opportunities. They eat up clock. They grind it out. 2 great coaches, Joey Jones and John Reed. Laurel fans, I'm sorry. I got to go Caravel on the road. They're the number 1 team. I'm picking them number 1. I got to go with them for this game here tonight. Let's go to another tough one. Seaford versus First State Military Academy. First State 2-1. Seaford 1-1. Trey, who you got?
Yeah, the Bulldogs. Their toughest challenge this year was a Double OT loss to Wilmington Charter, who's been a pretty good program in the last few years, and Seaford lost a late one to a good Woodbridge team, or a 3-0 Woodbridge team, pretty good team right now. God, it is tough. I'm gonna go with First State at home. I think that they proved themselves. I know it was a loss, but that was a good Wilmington Charter team. I like First State at home.
Ben Fraser.
Well, we all found out today that for whatever reason, Jazante Levon, the track speedster running back for Seaford, is no longer listed on their roster. So if he doesn't play, and I think he would have been the difference in the game, I'm going to go with First State Military. They got good size on the line. Johnson, the running back, he's a pretty good running back. He can get it done for them. So I like First State Military in a close win.
Hey, call me crazy. I'm sticking with the Blue Jays. I think Seaford's going to go up there and win this game. Look, they took over this year. The cupboard was left bare. Coach gets a new job. Now they don't have Levon. I think you're going to see this team, these Blue Jays, they're going to come together as a team, and I think they're going to pull this one out, albeit very tight. I see Seaford nipping them on the road. Another big one, big AAA battle. 7 o'clock in Absinio when the Smyrna Eagles head to Slazanum. Smyrna 0-2, Slazanum 2-0. Trey Mitchell, who do you have?
Yeah, it's interesting seeing the number 2 team in the state 0-2, but we know Smyrna challenged themselves early. Going up to Sally's, it's always tough playing up there. Sally's has always historically been a good team. They're going to play solid football, but I think the challenging themselves is going to pay off. I think Smyrna gets their first win of the season.
Man.
Smyrna has played well against Salesianum on the road at Abyssinio in recent past. They've got 2 quarterbacks that have been alternating, and Tiberi and Marks. Marks, the assistant coach, the offensive coordinator's son. And they've got a bevy of wide receivers that can get it done, and Enriquez, Ashley, and Kearney. Mackey and Yancey are fast scat back running backs. The offensive line intact completely from last year, with the exception of the center. So offensively, Smyrna has been scoring points against two very good out-of-state Pennsylvania teams in close losses. They also defensively, they've got Brandon West. He's a stud on the line. Cole Moyer, a linebacker, and they're pretty solid in the secondary too. I think they do. I'll agree with Trey. They're going to get win number 1 on the road at Abyssinia against the Sows.
Battle of the S. The Smyrna S and the Salesianum S. Big coaching things here. You had Deldon versus Marks calling the offense. You have Paul Warlow, the former NFL player, former Blue Hen. He's calling the defense now for Salesianum. But I think one of the most underrated coordinators in the state is Dan Wagner at Smyrna. A lot of people, I don't know who the defensive coordinator is at Smyrna. It's Dan Wagner. A little early in the season to depend on the Smyrna defense. They usually last half of the season, they come on strong. I think Smyrna is going to get the one stop they need. I think Smyrna wins on the road as well. So all three of us picking Smyrna on that one. Another tough one here. Friday night, 7 o'clock. This is your game, Glenn. You'll have your first call of the season on Delaware Live Sports. It's St. George's versus Appo. St. George's 1-1. Appo 1-1. Appo minus McConomy. Trey, who do you got?
Well, St. George's had made a late run last season to qualify for state tournament. And then they knocked off Appo in round 1. They took a tough 2017 loss to Hodgson last week, who looks like an early threat this season. Appo, they took one on the chin against Dover last week, and they lost McConomy. I'm gonna stick with the seeded team here. I'm gonna say St. George's on the road.
Ben.
Well, they're all tough this week. I looked at this when you sent it to me earlier today. I don't see a blowout in any of these games that we're picking in week 3. St. George's, we had them on the show last night, and we had Appo as well. Very well-mannered young men from both teams, good coaching staffs. John Wilson for St. George's and Brian Timpson and his staff from Appoquinimink. The loss of McConomy is big. It's huge. On both sides of the ball, Benny, he's a good defensive ball player as well. But they're going to plug in some people. They have some good wide receivers. Nielsen's a young quarterback who can spread the ball around. I just don't know whether they can keep Montgomery, the running back, and St. George's off the field. These two play really close ball games the last 5 or 6 years. It's going to be another close one, and I agree with Trey. I'm going to go with the Hawks in a close one.
And last year we saw that St. George's and John Wilson talked about on the show last night. They were dead in the water. Kids felt like they had nothing to play for. And boy, did they come back the last half of the season, got themselves a number 7 seed, knocked off number 2, and then ran into the Dover Buzzsaw in the semifinals. I think the Hawks win this one. Like I said, the loss of McConomy is big. Appo's they're not dead in the water. They're going to come back, but just a tough game to regroup from after losing one of the best running backs in the state. So I'm going to go St. George's. And finally, our Friday night downstate game of the week. It's the Class AA Delaware Military versus AAA Sussex Central. Trey Mitchell, who do you got?
Well, both teams are coming off a bye week. They're feeling fresh. DMA played Sally's tough in the first half. Sally's just eventually stepped on the gas in the fourth quarter there, but then they won a tight road game at Delmar. Central, they may be replacing their entire offense, but that program, man, it just looks like it's plug and play, man. They're just a fine-tuned machine. That offense, defense is always tough. They did get blown out by a very talented Middletown team, but they came out healthy, so that's important. And it's at Sussex Central, so I think you know what my pick is. I pick Central at home.
Ben Frazier.
It's always tough to play in the castle, huh, Benny?
Yes, it is.
I think you might have the quickest game time-wise of the night. There's 2 teams that are going to ground and pound. DMA with Teal and Emmons, and Sussex Central. It looks like Malik Bell is going to be back and healthy. And John Wells and that staff, they run that wing T offense to perfection. They're about the only team left in the state that still runs the old Delaware wing T. I think these 2 keep the ball on the ground, and it's going to be a grinder. I'm taking the home team in a squeaker.
Trey nailed it. Plug and play. That's Sussex Central. I went and watched a middle school game today with Georgetown, half of their middle school, and one of the ring tee. It did look a little slower, but it looked just like Sussex Central out there on a Friday night. The key to this game is going to be playing surface, playing on grass, playing on Bermuda grass. It's supposed to get some rain, although the rain will come probably after kickoff or maybe slightly before. So the field conditions should be good early and then deteriorate late. So I'm thinking you're probably going to see the buck sweep and the counters early, and you're going to see a lot of Malik Bell with the guard trap running that fullback position late in the game. But this Ed Edmonds, man, I watched him on film. What a hard runner. I mean, he just runs downhill, plays both sides of the ball. I think if DMA can get on the board early, take that crowd out of it. And that crowd, if it's raining, the castle may not be as loud and crazy. But I learned my lesson. I've done it before. I'm not doing it tonight. I'm taking Sussex Central in the castle. So those are our picks for this week, Glenn. Back in the booth tomorrow night with St. George's and Appo. I think tonight we have one going on probably right now. Who do we have tonight? The upstate game.
Did something get moved around?
Or maybe is it
No.
tomorrow night?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure who the upstate guys have. But I know Nick Allison Jr. has a call somewhere. So for Benny Mitchell, Glenn Frazier, Trey Mitchell, I'm Benny Mitchell. Kickoff tomorrow night. As of now, Friday night, 6 o'clock at Sussex Central, and as of now, 7 o'clock in Middletown at St. George's Appo. You guys have a all-terrain field, so they should be fine playing that game at 7 o'clock. Check us all out. See how we go. Glenn, looking to better that one loss last year, just one loss. See if he can go 8-0 this week.
Oh man, tough games this week. Tough games.
They were very tough. I mean, I didn't even really notice it until I sat down and looked at all 8, and I was like, wow. It's like even these single A games are tight this week. So for Delaware Live, powered by 302 Sports, we'll see you next week with some picks of our Week 4 game.